Out with the old and in with the new. It's time to save big at Room to Room's New Year's sale. Store-wide markdowns 50 to 70% off. No tax. 48-month special financing. It's a new year at Room to Room Furniture in Tupelo. There's no place like home.
At First Choice Bank, we know you can't always make it before the bank closes. With our integrated teller, you can talk to a live person as late as 7 p.m. on weekdays and noon on Saturdays. It's not just an ATM, it's an ITM. First Choice Bank, your choice for banking.
Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 6.
Welcome in to Mississippi Live Weather at 6. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lopon. Thank you so much for joining us here this rainy, drizzly, dreary evening. I guess we're on windshield wiper check. I don't know about you. Mine were not really up to snuff. I got to get mine changed out. You know, we've just been so dry recently. As we talked about yesterday, drought continues to be something that is expanding. So thankful in a lot of ways to have some much needed moisture. The rain does continue into the evening. A few rumbles possible. Most storms will, frankly, not be storms. But it's not impossible, again, to have a couple out there. Morning fog, I think, is likely to be pretty thick by tomorrow morning. We're very close to this warm front around the area, and so you typically have moisture overrunning that. And so some of that will still be around before that same front kind of switches to cold front and sweeps it all on out of here. Gabe, though, is going a lot colder. He is on snow patrol. Go. Anyway, the parents out there know that Paw Patrol song. Once that gets in your head, it's there all weekend. Sorry about that, but he is going to be looking out to see if maybe we can pull some of that off. I think we're really probably pushing it, but we'll see here in a couple of minutes. Though, as you can see, with rain chances, we're about as widespread as we're going to get right now. The next couple of hours at 40 to 50% on that rain coverage there, still at 7 p.m., 30% by 10, 20% by 1 o'clock in the morning as those showers gradually move out of here. Notice the northerly winds pick up a little bit as well. As those continue to kind of shift from east to north, that'll bring in that drier air, kind of sweeping the moisture on out of here as we progress into tomorrow. But again, with upper 40s to begin the day, it's not a huge drop in temperatures tonight because we do have, again, plenty of that moisture. Looking live here on Mississippi Weather Radar here, Mississippi Live Doppler. Yeah, I'm changing the name here. We're in the process. We've given the sponsorship rights over there to the Mama Justice folks. I got to learn the new way I'm going to refer to this. So give me a moment to relearn here. Mama Justice Doppler Radar. That's what we're going with. So anyway, there's actually a few things that look like some moderate rain showers out here stretching from Splunge back toward Gapman and New Wren there as well. I'm going to widen things back out. We're going to change it over to our camera out there in the Monroe County area to kind of check out what things are looking like there in and around Amory at this point here. And as you would imagine, it's a rather dark because it's night. But obviously, visibility is low because of those showers. And that's, I think, your main impact this evening. If you're going from point A to B, whatever A to B is, you're going to have wet roads, and that's going to increase stopping distances. So just be a kind driver. Mr. Maynard and I were talking about that between the 5 and 6 o'clock show. Sometimes that's difficult, but you'll want to increase those those following distances because that means your stopping distances will increase as well. Checking out our camera site there in the Ackerman area. Again, showers are less plentiful there. Notice from 54 in Amory to that temperature. If I can get Ackerman to come up. There we go. I think I'll switch over here in just a second. That one coming in at 57. So that's a sign of slightly warmer air, slightly farther south, and slightly more unstable air. And so it's the contrast between those two that enhances our chances of possibly seeing a few rumbles mixing in with these showers. On Mississippi Live Weather Radar, again, it's the latest look here at this time showing, again, the heaviest band stretching from Bruce back out there toward Okolona. Out here northwest Chickasaw County here close to Holka. This is about as close to something generating a lightning strike, but as you can see, we don't have any officially out there at this point. But I think once it gets over here closer to Okolona itself, I'd say it's more possible we could have that produce a couple of rumbles. But luckily at this point, there has not been that much. And when we kind of check the rainfall rate on this, which is always kind of a way to judge, well, how heavy is it? I mean, you do have some heavier rainfall in, but mostly that is the exception of the rule. Rainfall so far out of this has been pretty limited. I mean, even best estimates here, we show some spots there in Chickasaw County up close to 3/4 of an inch. That's really pushing it. I don't know if we have any official rain gauges showing up with that much, but you can see not impossible. A few folks there, we see the greens maybe a half inch of rainfall out there. So we definitely need it, and certainly wouldn't turn it down if that were the case. So going back to the regular rainfall mode here on Mississippi Live Weather Radar and kind of change it over to the satellite perspective, as you can see, this storm system, center it still back to the west of us, still kind of building in attached to this warm front. And this warm front's important because we have that moisture overrunning it. And so that's what kind of sets us up in this pattern where we're going to continue to have, again, these showers continue through the night. As that warm air aloft kind of runs over top of this front, you get the showers. And then right at the front itself, you can from time to time get a few storms. But mostly, these are going to be showers as opposed to those storms. So let's look here again at Futurecast on kind of the closer shot, and then we'll dig more into this here in a minute. You can see a few little rumbles showing up down here closer to Sugarlock and Carrollton. This is 10 p.m. and notice it's very close to the front. I'll rip that front off there on our more in-depth look at that here in just a couple of moments. But again, right at that front where we'll have the heaviest chances for maybe a couple of showers and storms. As far as severe weather is concerned, I expect those chances probably end up staying to our south. And there will be a chance for maybe some stronger thunderstorms south Alabama, South Georgia, and into the Florida Panhandle. Our friends at Panhandle Weather down there will be tracking that very closely for tomorrow as that kind of moves through that part of the area. But for us, it is the drier and cooler air behind this front that will end up being our weather story. So 50 for your Saturday to start the day. Again, that fog early. And we're going to keep a lot of cloud cover around through the day. That's why we're only 52 at 9 a.m., 57 by noon, and then 58 as we go toward the afternoon. You'll also notice cooler temperatures in the evening as opposed to in the morning. And so that is a sign that, again, there's we'll probably reach, in some cases, our peak in the northwest part of the state, probably closer to, say, noontime as that colder air continues to kind of funnel in behind this system. Coming up in 60 seconds, we're tracking where those storms, again, will be the heaviest, kind of a zone there. We'll look a little more in depth on timing on that. We'll break down your complete forecast going for the Duke's Mayo Bowl. I know a lot of folks looking forward to see what Mississippi State does in that one there. That's coming up in 60 seconds. Mississippi Live Weather continues here from the Room to Room Weather Center right after this.
Give the gift of a delicious burger from Bulldog Burger, a soup and sandwich from Sweet Pepper's Deli, appetizers and cocktails from The Grill, or even a wood-fired steak from Harvey's. Choice is the perfect gift. An all-in-one gift card from Eat With Us.
Can I ask a few questions?
Yeah, sure.
Do you have any pets?
Yes, we have a dog, but she's little.
Do you have any unlocked guns around the house?
We do have a gun, but it's stored securely, locked in a safe that the kids can't access. Appreciate you asking.
Yeah, of course.
I felt accomplished after I got my diploma. Made me feel that I could take on whatever challenges life throws at you.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
Even though Gabe grew up in Alabama, Mississippi has now become his home and his family. And one thing about Gabe is he keeps his family safe.
This portion of Mississippi Live Weather is presented by Little's Jewelers.
Right now, from the Room to Room Weather Center, here's Mississippi's Chief Meteorologist, Matt Lovhawn.
Oh, forgot to change my background. So let's get that cleaned up for you because we are looking at a different type of green. A few showers there near Charlotte, North Carolina. Of course, that's where the Duke's Mayo Bowl is, and that's where a lot of the Mississippi State fans are Ethan Foster. And you have not met Ethan on air yet, at least on this broadcast. You have over on the old place. He's going to be helping us out during basketball season for high school basketball. Starting next week, we're going to start going around and doing something similar to football, except it'll be both men's and women's basketball games over the course of the season, or boys and girls basketball games for high school sports. We're looking forward to that. He was texting me from the bowl there, some pictures. But we got some highlights from last night, our folks down there at the Sugar Bowl, and obviously the Ole Miss fans had a good night there. Of course, Ole Miss with a 39-34 big victory. Obviously, the end of that game just absolutely wild. Although a lot of folks obviously took probably a while to get the blood pressure back under control as far as that's concerned. Appreciate John Bowen for these pictures there. Nice close-up shots via our Will Kohlmeyer of what was obviously a very exciting game, a memorable game, one that Ole Miss fans will remember for a long time. But as a lot of them would probably say, unfinished business still to go on that one. We'll have that forecast for the next leg of the playoffs Our Gabe Maynard will have that one as we go into this upcoming weekend. But here in the Room to Room Weather Center, we've got another SEC football forecast. We kind of, again, brought to you by Carl Hogan Toyota, illustrating this one here. Kickoff temperature expected to be mid-50s there. And as you saw, there are a few spotty rain showers in and around the region. They're in and around Charlotte. So not impossible to have some issues with that, but mostly cloudy versus wet conditions, hopefully, the way this one ends up playing out. Here across North Mississippi, as we look ahead for tomorrow, we expect that we will be, again, mostly dry during the day. We have some fog initially in the morning there. Most of the showers out of here early, 49 at 7 a.m. temperature. We're 57 by noon, 58 look toward 3 p.m., and 52 as we head towards 7. Again, that putting our temperature still above normal, despite the fact we have a front that will have come through. We're below normal right now in Tupelo at 52, but notice it's 59 in Macon, 62 degrees there at Kosciuszko, 63 at Belzona, and back toward around the Greenville area. Mississippi Live Weather Radio brought to you by Mama Justice here. We talked about it a moment ago. It's still showing up with a little bit more of an enhancement on what that is, that little shower we have down there closer to the Holtka area. This one could have a few lightning strikes with it as it makes its way up north of Van Vliet, and then gradually again toward Leotis and Okolona there. Listen, we're kind of stretching things to do a whole lot of tracking on this. We're not expecting severe weather out of these, but a few lightning strikes, yes, maybe an occasional gust of wind, but certainly watching that. I'll eventually make it within the next hour or so out there closer to Smithville, Amory, about hour and 20 minutes there as it gets closer to Detroit, Alabama, as it works its way back toward the east. So looking at Futurecast here, as you can see, that's where we kind of have some of those heavier storms at this time. I pulled off that front, but just a reminder when we were talking about that red line that we showed at the beginning of the broadcast, kind of running somewhere around here-ish, represents warmer air that's working its way northward. And so anytime you see kind of the shapes on one of those, that tells you the direction of motion. In this case, this one lifting northward, or kind of more stalled more than even that northward direction there. And so it's close to that boundary. We'll continue to have kind of our focal point to possibly see some showers and storms, perhaps a little bit south of that. The storm we have there closer to Louisville and Sugarlock, one that our projections have kind of had the last couple hours here. Listen, below severe limits, but this could have a few lightning strikes and an extra rainfall enhancement at 9 to 10 o'clock hour here, closer to Macon, out toward Carrollton, Alabama. Our meteorologist, Gabe Maynard, will be looking at that much more detail coming up here in a few minutes as we, or at 10 o'clock, he'll be looking more detail at that. In a few minutes, he's talking snowfall. Or probably not, but he'll be looking at our chances. Probably not. Anyway, we'll dig more into that with Gabe here in a couple of minutes. But you can see here by 11:30 or so, that main kind of frontal boundary, that warm front, the place where we have the better lift, as the low pressure center kind of kicks through, that moves east as well. And so our rain and storm chances become more significant out there south of Tuscaloosa, Utah, out toward Alabaster, and then into Alabama, 1:32, 3 o'clock in the morning, leaving us mostly dry as we go into the late overnight hours and into the first part of your Saturday morning. I say dry. This is going to be very moist in the fact that we're going to have widespread cloud cover, and that thick cloud cover is obviously a curtain of moisture in its own right. Additional rainfall from what we have seen to this point here, and you can see where it has some of those heavier showers down there. That's where we have an excess of half an inch, and probably an inch of rainfall in some spots. Somebody down there in this zone south of Starkville probably ends up with an additional 3/4 of an inch of rainfall. Hopefully it's you. I take it up here, but it's not going to be where I'm at. As you can see, Tupelo area, only about another 0.2 of an inch of rainfall. So this is more nuisance rainfall than anything that's really making any kind of meaningful difference as far as conditions are concerned here. So as we look out and about there at temperatures at this time, coming 49 for tomorrow morning there in Tupelo, 49 in Amory, 52 for Kosciuszko, Louisville, and for the Macon area. Widespread clouds, a few bits of drizzle and shower activity that kind of accompanying this widespread cloud cover. That's what this is. Again, this is nuisance rainfall. If you're sensitive to moisture outside, this is going to be an issue for the first part of tomorrow through probably midday. But you can see the dots on the over top of the green there. Those represent the northerly winds coming in behind this that are going to be associated with drier air, cooler air that settles in as we go into the latter part of Saturday and into your Sunday. And that gets those low temperatures back into the cooler category by your Sunday morning. But as you can see here, no precipitation behind this as we go into your Saturday and through the day. So beyond the morning, things will start cooling off. You can see our contrast here. High temperature, we show 50 there, South Haven, 52 in Senatobia. It's kind of plucking the temperature in the afternoon to a certain extent. As you can see, 57 in Water Valley, 59 in Bruce, yet still some mid-60s down there for Aliceville and Macon, coming around 62, 60 in the Louisville area. As that cooler and drier air comes in, it does try to clear us out as we go into your Saturday evening. We will see. I don't have a high level of confidence that we go completely clear on this, but some cooler air kind of coming in. And that obviously is drier air as our high pressure center continues to kind of roll overhead here as we head into those overnight hours into early Sunday morning. We keep it mostly clear early Sunday, and so that means temperatures dropping. You can see down to the freezing point in Senatobia, 31 degrees in Holly Springs, 33 there in the New Albany area. I mean, considering our normalest time of year is 34, and that's right where we're at in Houston or Tupelo or really most locations within a degree or so of that. This is what we expect. And the wind chill, noticeable but not extreme, slicing off a couple of degrees out there with a few spots such as Red Bay, Iuka, New Albany, back in the upper 20s and almost mid-20s there for Tunica back toward around Senatobia. So again, those north winds continue to bring in drier and cooler air. You go on the much wider perspective here, we go out quite a ways. You can see back to the north and west, not a whole lot of big storm systems coming toward us. So we're going to kind of simmer. Wrong term. I'm thinking I don't want to imply the heat end of this, at least not initially here, but what we definitely have with this is a return flow on the backside. I apologize. I've got a group chat that's just blowing up here. Give me a moment to just mute that. How that happens sometimes. Usually I can leave my notifications on and it's not that big a deal, but they have decided that today is the day to do it. And so when you have a high pressure center like what we have up there to the north, you always get flow that's in a clockwise fashion around it, right? And so initially here, we have those winds out of the north, and I've got the wrong color for that. We've got those winds kind of out of the north, and so it's this kind of cooler air that's still kind of slanting in as we progress into and through much of your afternoon there on your Sunday. But as we go eventually toward Monday, and you can already start to see kind of first signs of it back there into Texas, right? That is the opposite direction. And I think we're talking about these warm, what we call return flow sort of winds through much of the extended forecast. And so that really sets us up, because our next storm system is so far back to the west, to possibly get more moisture in place to eventually lead to some storm chances, and maybe some stronger storm chances in the extended forecast there. We kind of don't have the front right on the heels of this one, so we have some more time to bring in moisture. Hopefully it's not the case, but we'll see. 55 there, Bruce, 55 Houston, 56 Eupora, as well as Starkville and Louisville coming in around 56. So for your highs on Sunday, pretty similar to what we expect for this time of year. We're 63, though, by Monday. And again, this is why I mentioned simmer, and that just kind of sits there for a bit. We're warmer and warmer and warmer heading in the next week, but simmer kind of implies a level of heat that we're not going to necessarily reach. But notice later in the week, we start to see more thunderstorm chances Thursday and Friday. What we have going on here is we have kind of an open Gulf of Mexico. We were talking about those winds coming up from the south there. And remember, we were looking at Sunday with that a moment ago. You then have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to start bringing moisture in. That will set us up, I think, with enough fuel. We talked about last night that we have a potential to maybe see some stronger or severe thunderstorms, depending on just how much of that fuel gets up here. To that point, in a moment, I'm going to pull in one of those extended graphics here to show you an example of what that kind of fuel looks like into next week. And so, again, it's pretty limited initially Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. But as you can see, Wednesday, not as much, but by Thursday, late in the day, a little bit more. And for Friday, if I stop at the right time here, and I ignore the fact that my city name is going to get super small, still kind of focused back to the west, more to the west than it was last night, but a sign that we have more fuel getting closer to us, and that could lead to not just some rain chances, eventually some storm chances. But again, confidence remains mixed at this point as far as that is concerned. Coming up in 60 seconds, mixed would be very confident in any snowfall potential, because the reality is Gabe is on snow patrol, and it might be a fruitless measure, but he'll look at that chance as we go through January. Coming up here as Mississippi Live Weather continues from the Room to Room Weather Center right after this.
It's Friday night y estamos activos. Head out early. Drinks flowing to 11.
No sé qué pasó. I didn't even drink that much.
By the time you see the symptoms of lung cancer, it could be too late. Now there's a new scan that can detect lung cancer early. If you smoked, get scanned.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back. Dad! You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
So I guess to clear the air on this one, the winter threat as far as tonight is concerned, other than the fact that the season says it is a non-existent thing. It's all rainfall out there. This, as you join us back here in the Room to Room Weather Center on Mississippi Live Weather at 6, is something that behind the scenes we can refer to as the snow machine, which is really kind of a cool name when you think about it. But this winter threat graphic is a way for us to kind of just as a clean sheet say, okay, what's the likelihood we have anything other than rain? And there's just nothing out there with this. But that doesn't mean our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, isn't thinking about snowfall. He's always thinking about snowfall. Right, Gabe?
Well, I think thinking is honestly our best bet at getting snowfall over the next 2 weeks. Imagining, dreaming is the best way. Do what?
Yeah. That might be the only...
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the hope is just very minimal to practically nothing. If we look at these snowfall totals, and this is not just over the next couple of days. No, look at that date, January 18th. So over the next several weeks, you can see nothing over the top of North Mississippi. A very dry pattern in regards to that winter accumulation. But the reason why, of course, has to do with moisture, but it also has to do with just the temperatures that we're seeing. Too much warm air down here in the south, and with that mild pattern returning into next week, any chance of moisture will pair along with it. Is still going to be in the form of rainfall. So those snowfall chances, as you can see, working their way up the East Coast, really showing up around the New York area and really around Wisconsin and Michigan. I know our Will Kohlmeyer, if he went to visit some family up there, he might be pleased with the snowfall outputs. But down here in North Mississippi, it's not exactly looking ideal and pretty much tracking nothing at all. Of course, working our way out there towards the east or the West Coast, that's where we do get some of that snowfall as well. Perfect for skiing. So adding to it, if you want any snowfall, unfortunately have to go a bit of a ways away. If we look at any of that measurable amount of rain or snowfall, Matt, I don't know if we have the ability to measure this, but the closest part to our viewing area, I would say 60, 70 miles at best, and that's not going to be anything too close to our region. And even then, it's only about a dusting, a couple.
Well, but then again, that's season totals. That's not future. That's season totals to this point, right?
Oh, that's right. That's right. So exactly. So the fact that it's still a bit of a ways away, our first snowfall, it can be in January, but we often expect it more into February and March. But still,
well, it can be in December and sometimes November too. It's just very rare.
Yeah, and especially with how dry and how warm things have been, the ingredients are definitely not there. So I think that's where we'll continue to be throughout the next couple of weeks, as you saw on that snowfall graphic a moment ago. But yeah, snowfall totals this season, about 1/2 of an inch over there in East Tennessee, and same thing, about a couple tenths of an inch there in Northwest Tennessee. But those snowfall totals well up to the north. Now, I got to look at this graphic to really see the legend on this, but we're talking what?
Oh no, that's not on the legend. I left that straight off because you have to get into like lake effect snow area. If we ever get a scenario where we have 12 inches of snow, I mean, we were checking that between the broadcasts there. Like that would be the biggest snowfall season in Tupelo history was 14.8 inches in 1935 and 36. And the second biggest was right before I got here, that 2010-2011 season at 10.8. So the reality is if we ever get to a situation where we need a higher level on the graphic here, I just made a mistake.
Well, and the big one that stands out, look at, I believe that's Buffalo, or at least close to Buffalo, the blue showing up. I think that's a first for me.
But why?
Because of lake effect snow.
Lake effect snow. So you want to talk about that for a second? What is lake effect snow and why does it matter?
Well, so lake effect snow is basically whenever you have the moisture over the area, the reason why you get those higher outputs that are happening right around, in this case, the Great Lakes, you get some of those higher outputs that could produce a thing that we call lake effect snow. And it's whenever those breezes kind of work that moisture off of those lakes into some inland areas, and we do get some snowfall to start to form. So I'm pretty sure that this would be applicable here, depending on the wind direction. But if we put this on a loop over the last hour or so, you can see how it's really building up right along those coastal regions, whereas out here, a little bit bit of a ways away, it's more of a dusting. So you see those darker blues that are, I believe I'm going to say this incorrectly, but Oswego, right there north of Syracuse. That's that wind that's moving west to east, that's building in the moisture from the Great Lake, and that's where you're getting some of those higher outputs. You notice a real cool geographical feature here. It's a very thin lake, basically not a latitudinally large lake. And so whenever this happens, that line of wind is focused right along here. It's not going to be this north-south direction. That's why Brighton, Oshawa, Toronto, they're not getting any of that snowfall. It's because of the direction of the wind and where it's taking that moisture. That's why we're getting some higher outputs right there towards Oswego, but also right around Dunkirk with some of those snowfall outputs. Yeah, I'm really getting a good look right there with those brighter whites showing up. That's 12 plus inches. And Buffalo, New York, if you watch any of the NFL season, I love watching Buffalo games this time of year because of the amount of snowfall. And the fans actually have to go out and shovel the snow out of the stadium. They get paid for it, an hourly wage, because they know it's just going to be a snowy forecast this time of year. And lake effect snow are a big contributor with that. Oftentimes, we don't really experience it. Not an impossibility, though. If things shape up in the right way, it's just not going to be as widespread because the Great Lakes are great for a reason.
If we see lake effect snow here, it's usually like someone will send in the picture. They're like, is that snow? They're like, it's not snow. And I'll look at the wind direction. It's like, well, it went right along Sardis Lake. And for like 100 yards, 200 yards just downstream from Sardis Lake, it's like, well, look, there's a couple of flakes. One of the interesting things about it, you mentioned the Buffalo, lake effect snow. You can see the Buffalo portion of this versus just south of town. It's a lot less over the last week. And that's because of the wind direction. I mean, you can see that's almost a yard of snow in the last week that some of the folks have had up there. I'm looking for the water temperatures, and I'm trying to remember if that's under tropical here. Give me a moment. I think we should be tropical global sea surface temperatures. There we go. The reason I'm showing that is because you don't think this area is warm, and it's not. But when you have the lake temperatures that are up close to 40 degrees, and the air temperatures are, say, in the teens, comparatively speaking, that is warm, and it helps these the air moving over top of it to load up on warm moisture. Believe it or not, it's warm's a relative term, and you get lake effect snow because of that. And so one of the things we kind of wait for, or at least folks up there wait for, is when the lakes freeze over, because once the lakes get that little layer of ice on top, it's no longer warm, and then they stop producing the lake effect snow as significantly.
Looking forward to a frozen lake. That's just something only northerners can understand.
I'm telling you, but when you look at it, there's some spots out there where the lake is closer to it. You can see over there around Toledo, we show it's at freezing. Some spots up there in the UP, near the UP of Michigan, it's frozen over. So there are some folks out there that are past that, and some folks that obviously have a ways to go.
Do you miss it? Old Kansas boy?
We did not have lake effect snow in Kansas.
Well, not lake effect snow, but the larger snowfall outputs. Do you miss any of that winter weather?
So here's to be clear. When I was growing up, I grew up in like a 10, 15-year drought. And so we had very minimal amounts of snowfall out there. I'm serious. Very minimal amounts of snowfall over the course of the seasons out there. I remember one time when I was, probably 5 or 6, that we went to the park and they had these giant limestone sort of pillars out there that you could stand on. You're not supposed to stand on. They were decoration, but we could because it ramped up, and it was the 80s. Anyway, but there were these huge drifts of snow. Like my legitimate height now, drifts of snow, because in Kansas it's the wind. You get the snow and the wind like carried around the edge. We would jump off of this like probably 8-9 foot high thing, boom, into the drift. Lucky I still didn't break my neck, but it is what it is. Here we are. Fun. And so that happened one time, and then most of the time growing up, there just really wasn't that much snow. So they've gotten way more snow for Christmases when I've been up there since I became an adult, as opposed to otherwise there.
Well, and see, I grew up in Des Moines for the first 5 years of my life. So we were in a snowy climate, and my parents, because I don't really remember much of it, my parents tell me that they love living in Alabama now because the snow up there was just, it becomes something you don't enjoy as much because it's not an anomaly, it's not a rarity, and you have it all the time, and you always got to clear it. So, and of course, you see the difference right there. Snowfall totals this season, Des Moines, Iowa. I know.
Well, and that shows you just the difference between, like, say, Iowa, like you're talking about there. And again, they've had some decent events there. I'm from this part of Kansas right there, 1 inch. That's a big difference, despite the fact that it's not a whole lot farther north. I mean, distance there, 250 miles north versus, from Tupelo to that, almost double that. So it's, anyway, we didn't get, that part of Kansas out there, that much snow. Unfortunately, fortunately, depending on your perspective.
Well, and it's amazing that oftentimes people think, oh, it's further up north, they're going to get a better output of snow, or a better chance of snow. And yes, that is the case, but I mean, Tupelo's at 0. We know we have not gotten any accumulation this year, but Kansas is only at 1. So the fact that, it's not always the case. You need those right ingredients in place, and of course that comes with moisture, and that comes with colder air, and it just hasn't exactly been in place for a large part of the country. Of course, up around Canada, up around the Great Lakes, you're going to get that, but we're not the only ones experiencing this drier winter season so far.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, there's your snowfall. There's your scale. You were asking about your scale.
Oh, is that it at the top?
You see
I need to look at it.
Yeah. What does it say? 12 what?
Oh my word, that's feet. Golly.
Yes. That's only one hash on that. That's only one apostrophe. That's not the quotation marks. That's more than 12 feet of snowfall. Some of the folks there. Let's get in the middle. Let's find out the answer.
Yeah,
and a lot of this, really, we're clear. A lot of this has come in the last couple of weeks here. 165 inches. So
would you ever want to live in that?
No. I had a standing order for my wife that there was no way I was allowed to move farther north than Tupelo ever. That's the rule.
Yeah. Well, no, and Tupelo, like I said, it's enough where you can appreciate it still. You get one snow event. Yeah. And
don't say that. Don't promise one. You're going to be like Gabe Maynard. They're going to be like Gabe Maynard said we were going to get one snow event. So I want to be clear here. That's Gabe Maynard, not Matt Lawpon promising that snow.
Don't put that on me. No, I was just thinking on average of my time being in Tupelo.
You have Gabe on snow patrol, right?
I want to be ambitious. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not expecting any snowfall anytime soon, but it's not an impossibility that in the future, but you do need those right ingredients to happen in order for those to take place. Over the next 2+ week span that we've looked at, nothing is really showing up. The most that we're expecting is the potential for some inclement weather heading into parts of late next week, but no winter weather going to be attached to that. It's just going to be that, again, mild forecast with that limited potential of some thunderstorms, but also limited potential of maybe a strong thunderstorm or two.
Absolutely. That's something our meteorologist Gabe Maynard will be looking at in more detail tonight at 10 p.m. here from the Room to Room Weather Center, tracking the latest on, again, some of those storm chances. I think we'll have some rumbles tonight. Next week, probably better chances. Hey, listen, we've been on borrowed time here with how good the forecast has been. And by good, I mean not stormy. They'll be looking at the latest on that extended forecast here in the Room Weather Center coming up at 10 p.m. Thank you so much for joining us this evening on Mississippi Live Weather. Have a great night.
Hate is loud, but love is the majority.
I'm your retirement fear, but don't be scared. You're still in pre-tirement.
Does that mean I have more time to plan?
Precisely. This is pretirement.org.
This isn't scary. I'm doing it.